Hi everyone, welcome to Influencing on Camera. Today I have my good friend JanineBolon here. How's it going, Janine?
Today is a good day. Thanks for having me on with you today.
So I'm so excited because you're one of those entrepreneurs that has literally done everything from the ground up, done everything yourself, and now you've gotten to the point where you can really delegate. And I know a lot of people kind of wonder oh, I'm a solopreneur, I got to do everything myself. And, when do I get to this other point, or how do I do it like Janine? And so I'm really excited to have you share some of your wisdom, which you seem to do a lot of. Am I wrong?
I think I've always been a teacher, starting very early on. Even when I was in the pharmaceutical industry, I was always teaching graduate students how to use things. So I've always been put in the role of mentor for people. And so I really don't feel like I teach anyone anything they don't already know. But what my gift seems to be is helping them systemize what is already intuitive for them so that they can then teach another person so they can delegate.
Yeah, and I think delegation is really hard for entrepreneurs because we know that in our minds we can do the best. And it's really hard to let go of that control. How did you get into that? Because you're such a perfectionist.
The thing was, I could do what I hated or I could do what I loved. So one of the things that I recommend to entrepreneurs right off the bat is, what is the thing that you despise having to do? I don't know about other entrepreneurs, but for me, that's bookkeeping. I detested it. As soon as I had enough money coming through the door, I was hiring a bookkeeper. Then I hired a financial strategist. Then I hired my accountant. So I kind of went through that process. So once I had that in place, then the very next thing was looking for an assistant to help me with my email, to help me with my scheduling. I run 4 podcast programs. I have intense scheduling contacts, that kind of thing. And so that was very necessary to be able to have that. So it's kind of a stepwise thing. It's whatever do you despise the most? You should not be doing that, because I guarantee you, you are not doing it the best. Just because you think you are doesn't mean you are. And thinks, I know. But but face it, it's not something you want to do. So why are you even trying to do it? Yeah.
Totally. And I think that's a good way to look at it. And people, you actually made a really good statement in there when we were like, well, I'd love to automate, or I'd love to get somebody else in here, but I can't afford it. You started with the bookkeeping and getting the money rolling the best way possible so you could afford to do these other services. How would you go about teaching somebody that's in that place of Janine, I wish I could, I'm not sleeping, I need more time in my day, I don't have it, I need I need an assistant. How do I even start? What is your suggestion?
The suggestion for somebody who is in that place is you need to go on a business retreat and you need to make it happen the very next weekend. Because if you're already into burnout, there is nothing I'm going to be able to suggest to you that you even have bandwidth for. And when you go onto that business retreat, you're going to be scheduling your next vacation. You're going to be scheduling every 4 months. You're going on your business retreat, which means you leave the office at close of business on Thursday and you don't enter your office again until Monday morning at 9 a.m. or whatever your office hours are.
Yeah, my office hours are weird.
I know.
You know that.
You have to do that. And people say, oh, no, Janine, I'm doing just fine. I've gone for 7 years and I've never had a vacation. And I went, why are you in business for yourself? Mm-hmm. Are you in business for yourself so you can burn yourself out? Or are you trying to achieve a specific lifestyle? And so what I've found is a lot of people kind of throw themselves into a business because it seems like the right idea at the time or what have you. Sure. And it is. It's totally appropriate. However, as you move through that business practice, you're going to need to make sure that you have set up boundaries for yourself and your clients. And so the very first thing I'd say to somebody who's like, I'm not sleeping, I'm not this, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, you need to go on a business retreat. And once you go on that retreat, the very first question in your mind is, when is the next time I'm going to go on retreat? After that, when am I taking my 2-week vacation? And of course, what happens is people are like, I can't even afford to do what you're telling me. I can't afford to go on vacation. I'm like, you never will. Yeah. Until you start setting that up, you never will. And so what you do is you set it up, put it in your mind that you want to do all that. And then the third question you're going to ask yourself is, okay, what is my minimum viable product? What is the lowest cost thing? What is the lowest cost widget that I can produce and I can produce a lot of in my sleep? And then I am going to talk about that until the cows come home. That is what I'm going to talk about until the snake walks through the door, is what we used to say in the past. Because, and I hate to be the one to break your bubble here, but if you're not making money, you are not in business.
Correct.
And I know that
Truth.
may seem really no duh, but I have worked with hundreds of entrepreneurs and I said, so how are you doing? They're like, well, I'm losing money. You need to start making money. You are not in
Mhm.
business if you are not making money. Okay.
Yeah.
And too many people give away, they give too much free stuff away before they actually have their minimum viable product produced and systemized so that once you have that systemized, then you can start giving away your little, what do they call them, tchotchkes or whatever? Then you can start giving away all that fun stuff.
Yes, the freebies. Yeah.
Right.
So one question that I got from somebody, and I have to be honest, I did not answer it well, was they said that automation is great and all, but it seems impersonal. How do you feel about that?
It's as impersonal as you want it to be. Okay. Or it's as intimate and personal as you want it to be. So one of the things is I automate all the things that are in my back office. I automate every system I possibly can. And
Mm-hmm.
folks are like, oh my gosh, Janine, I love your cards. Like I
Mm-hmm.
have a system where I send cards on Saturdays or I send cards at specific times during my work day. And it is not impersonal, but it is a system. It is highly automated. But some people would say, but oh my gosh, Janine, I get really great cards from you. So the thing is you use automation to systemize stuff that's in your back office. And then when you're working with human beings or potential customers or prospects, they don't ever see the automation. What you're doing is you're going out and they always see you as a solopreneur. They're always seeing you and they're hearing from you and they're talking to you. And the automation doesn't kick in until they buy from you. So make sure you
Mm.
automate as much as you possibly can in your back office before you start automating your front office.
Yeah, because I think it was Gary Barnes who was talking about this, but it was you get a lot of looky loose, which I think was an older term. I didn't know what it meant. I had to Google it. But for those of you that don't know what this older term means, I think it's from like the 50s or something. It's people that are window shopping that are kind of coming in, they want information, but they're either not ready to buy or they were never going to buy, or they're just kind of like testing the waters. And a lot of times business owners don't know the difference. They think a customer is a customer or a potential client deserves all my attention. And they're taking away valuable time that we have from doing other things that could attract customers. So how do you handle looky-loos?
Okay, so yes, that is an older term. The modern term for that is shoppertainment. So a lot of people shop for the entertainment value, and
Mm-hmm.
you will see this a lot with car salesmen. I always talk to car salesmen because they are champions. They know when there are people who are not at all interested in buying, they have a free Saturday afternoon, and they're going to kill it on their car lot because they have nothing else to do. I am not one of these type of people. I can't imagine living this way, but they
No.
are out there. So the thing is, you set up in your mindset and your perspective that you're not going to have that. You're only going to have people who are interested in engaging with you. And if they aren't, you will see it pretty quickly and you can filter it out very well. I will give you an example that happened to me just yesterday.
Okay.
I, for my one of my automations is I follow up with people usually once a month. And so I have about 573 people that I'm trying to connect with once a month. And what I find fascinating about it is every once in a while I will find, oh, I have somebody in that system who is shoppertainment. I said, oh, how's it going today? And we'll use the term Laura. How's it going today, Laura? What's happening with you? And she goes, oh, things are fine. I'm like, well, no offense, Laura. We just came through a pandemic. How are you sure
Yeah.
everything's fine? I mean,
Yeah.
what's going on with you? And you're getting 1 and 2 word sentences and nothing else is coming back. I ended the 45-minute Zoom meeting that we had set up over 40 days beforehand. I ended the Zoom call early, sent her a card, thanked her for her time, told her, if you ever keep me in your back pocket, if I can ever be of service to you, please go ahead and contact me at XYZ.
Great.
And then I moved on. And then what did I do? For the next 30 minutes, I spent time prospecting new people, because it's obvious this person has no interest in any kind of a relationship, not even a relationship of friendship, right? So I'm
Oh,
like,
yeah.
it wasn't even, it was so clear. And I kept asking, are you okay? Is something wrong?
Mhm.
No, everything's fine. Okay, well, I don't have time to become a psychologist in that moment and try to dig down and figure out what's really happening.
Right.
If you do that with me, I'm too direct. My personality is very high speed.
Very
And it's
true.
not that I expect other people to be high speed, but at the same time, I'm more than happy to slow down, relax, and have a wonderful, intimate, personal conversation if the other person is equally as giving of their information and time as I am willing
Hmm.
to be. In this case, it wasn't. So that it's
No.
very easy to find that out. If people are like, no, no, I don't think I'm really interested right now. And then what you do is you schedule the next appointment. And I did with Laura too. I said, Laura, when do you want to get together again? Obviously, this isn't a good time.
Hmm.
And she didn't disagree with me. And we set up an appointment for 3 months in the future. So the point is, no matter whether they're a looky-loo or not, be aware of shoppertainment, and also
Yeah.
be aware that if somebody is having a bad day, give them 3 months and then reach back around to them again. So your follow-up systems are incredibly important, and those need to be highly automated.
That was an awesome answer. It's clear that you have like 4 or 40 podcasts because you just have that down. So, I have a list of questions. I don't know those of you who follow the podcast or not. I actually print these off every time. So if you ever see me losing connection with the person I'm talking to, it's because I'm making sure I'm staying on task, because I can just talk to people about anything for as long as we want to. So when you first started using the, let's just call them systems, let's just call them non-Janine time, what was your first struggle in doing that? Like, what was the hardest part about either setting up the automation or scheduling the time to do the cards or whatever it happens to be? What was your biggest struggle?
I think the biggest struggle was deciding why I wanted to do it.
Ooh.
If you have a system that you're getting ready to implement and you don't have a really strong why on why you will never have the discipline to carry it through. And so in my boot camps and when I am mentoring other people on my systems, I'm always saying, look, if you need to change this in some way, you can change the A module, the B module, or the C module, but you cannot touch the order in which it is. And I always let people know where they will break the system so that they are aware they can make a lot of their own personal choices for their own lifestyle, but the system will break and it will fail. And I know exactly where those points are because of my own personal experience with creating the system that I use. So for some people, they're like, well, I just don't want to do any of it at all. And I'm like, okay, when you hired me, now may I go back? Because I record a lot of my conversations. I'm like, let
Yeah.
me go back. When I first started talking to you and you paid me your hard-earned money, see, this is the thing. I'll give you your value worth whether you want it or not. And I will be very direct about it. That is, you told me you wanted to double your income in a year and that you wanted to automate and create systems so that you could have the lifestyle you wanted in 18 months.
Hmm.
And I agreed. And I said, we can't do that. You have enough of a foundation. We can move you forward. Therefore, when I share with you that there are 4 hours a week that you must put into your business in order to double that income and have that lifestyle you want in 18 months, do not give me pushback. Instead
Hmm.
of, this is my big thing. Don't find excuses, find a way. So stop giving me excuses, stop finding excuses to fight me on this, and find a way around it. And
Hmm.
finding that way around it is understanding your why.
And I think a lot of people don't quite understand their why. And I mean, I think that can be hard because to be like, oh, well, I just want my business to go well. Okay, why? I mean, you can keep asking them why like a little kid. They'll eventually get to the heart of it. But it's crazy to watch people do this exercise, especially like live and in a group. When people put you on the spot like that, people like Janine, that'll put you on the spot like
People
that.
like Janine, yes.
Yeah, where how long it takes them, how many layers they have to go through, where they just don't understand their why. And that is shocking to me. So, just for fun, for people that are listening, what are the steps to finding their why?
Okay. Well, it depends on what you are asking about. So, if it depends in marketing, you kind of have to be focused. All right. So let's talk about focus for a minute. To ask your why in a general way will bring back no fruit. because what kind of tree are you looking at? Maybe it's a shrub, maybe it's the book. Okay, you can see where a creative personality, which almost every entrepreneur I've ever met is highly creative.
Truth.
We can come up with ideas. Coming up with ideas is not our problem, actually. It's the
Mm-hmm.
implementation and the automating of our systems so that we can then make money with it, right? So when we talk about finding your why, what I like to share with people is like, why did you get into business? And that is usually a very powerful story. They'll talk about something happened, they overcame it, now they want to help the next person along with whatever that is. Okay, well, why do you want to help the next person? Well, I want to make the world a better place. Well, why do you want to make the world a better place? Well, that's because that's what humans do. I'm like, au contraire, let's look at Napoleon. Why do you personally want to make the world a better place, and why? And so eventually you'll dig down enough that they'll have this to say. I want to live, it will sound differently, but this is the nuts and bolts of it. I want to live life my way. I want to spend time with my family. I want to give back to my community because I've had a lot of good people in my life, and it makes me feel better. That's really everybody's why that got into business. Now, the frosting on the cake will look totally different depending upon what cake people are baking when it comes to their business, but that is their why. So when you're asking about your why, make sure you're focused on a solid aspect of your business. So when they say, I want to double my income in a year, I don't say, okay, let's make that happen. I go, why?
Mm-hmm.
What is it that you're going for? Because most of the entrepreneurs I work with and the type of people that you bring into your world, Jade, money is not our driving factor. We see money as a tool. We need it so that we can keep creating. We need it so we can buy that next super sweet lighting system that Jade is like, oh, this is
Which
the
I'm
cat's
using.
meow,
I'm
right?
using right now, right?
Please, may I get this? It's only $5,000, right? You know, whatever.
Only.
Oh, right. This is how I talk to myself. It's only $5,000. Yeah. So whatever it is that is your why, whatever is driving you, this, when you understand your why, it gets rid of the fear and it allows your logical side of your brain to be inspired by your heart. So your intuition and your heart will be able to inspire you. Oh, wouldn't it be great if I could have that $5,000 lighting system? The logic brain tries to shut that down. Like, are you kidding? Do you realize how much work you're going to have to do? And you're going to have to work hard to get there. The heart can say, wait a minute. I don't think we're really using all the resources we have available to us to be able to achieve this. And when you find out your why, well, why do you want that lighting system? Because, and then all of a sudden it comes out, the next product that you're going to be able to promote that will then allow you to grow your business so that you can spend more time with your family. The problem is most people don't schedule their time.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not spending more time with their family. They're sitting in their office building the next widget.
Right. That was such a good example of, I mean, this is how you can tell that there's a good teacher in the room is because they'll use a lot of analogies. They'll make them general analogies, like when she's talking about cake or she's talking about, okay, most people say this, that takes a certain amount of skill. And I'm a lot like you, Janine. I've taught my whole life. I started teaching when I was 11. I mean, it's just a part of who we are. I'm 34, by the way, anyone who's wondering on the podcast, I'm 34. So, I mean, that's a part of it. But I mean, good teachers can recognize other teachers and we learn from each other. But that's one thing I found that coincides with a lot of teachers. So if you're ever looking at putting together a class of some kind, make sure that you have analogies that are generalized enough that people can understand them and that you incorporate them well with your explanations. So that's just always cool to watch. So here's the fun question. This is one of my favorite questions. What is your origin story? So the example I always use is like Spider-Man, you know, with the biting of the spider and all that. Like, what was your catalyst, your spider? Actually, you're a writer. I can say whatever this. What was your hero's journey to get to where you are?
Well, I'm not going to go too far back because I've lived over half a century and I really don't want to have to drag our poor Gen Xers and our sweet millennials through the morass that is my life. I think the best thing is to share with the origin story is this. I had an opportunity to leave the workforce so that I could raise my 4 children. I took that opportunity. Actually, it was forced upon me because it was still in a situation where I was pregnant. I was working with viruses and highly blood-borne pathogens in the
Yeah.
laboratory. And when I found out I got pregnant, I was immediately put into a quality assurance role in an office doing nothing that I had been trained to do.
Mm.
So I walked away from corporate America. Well, I raised my family, but the next thing came out of, oh my, I am now a single mom. I still have 4 children, thank heavens, and love them dearly, but they want food with their meals. And I don't know why that is, but they
Silly
do.
children wanting to
It has
eat.
something to do with growth, I'm thinking. So I realized I was homeschooling them at that time. And I was like, no, I am going to continue to homeschool. I'm going to make enough money with my business so that I can get these kids into college and blah, blah, blah. So my origin story was literally mother necessity. I wish it could be I could go into an incredible story about amazing things, but honestly, it's pretty drab. It's pretty humdrum. It's just, I was a single mom. I had a need and I demanded it from the universe. And I still demand it from the universe. And it's amazing how the universe is still providing very well.
Such a great story. I have to say, I mean, as far as having a homeschool teacher, you would be one of my top choices for sure. Because
Well, you really need to
really cool.
survey my students. All of them, I'm sure, would have their own qualifiers on that one.
Yeah, but I mean, and I think what people don't know about Janine is a very fascinating person. I would call you overeducated. I want to get you a t-shirt that I saw in college, and in Latin it says, "If you can read this, you're overeducated." And I need to find that in your size. So with your origin story, with what you're talking about, how has that built things into what you're offering now? Like, how has that affected, your boot camps and your quality of life that you're teaching, your mentoring? I think is the word you're using.
Well, for right now, the biggest factor was I wanted to make sure things worked before I ask anybody to fork over their hard-earned money so that I can educate them on systems that I know will work for their business. And so it took me time to make sure that was going to happen. And please realize I was making a lot of mistakes. So the joke in my business model is always this: fail faster. My whole goal is to fail as fast as possible so I know what doesn't work so I can get to the success at the other end. So I have very much a Thomas Edison sort of mindset about it. It's like, well, I know the 999 ways you can epically fail at this system. I know where it will break. I know when it will stop working, which is why I am the best person to help you increase your income using the systems that I have, because I've done it on my own. And then when you get to a certain level, I'll be like, it's time for you to hire a VA, or it is time for you to hire XYZ person. We can walk you through that. But I'd say that the single best one is the fact that you need to fail faster. And when you do have a failure, just pick yourself up and keep moving. I think the reason why I have achieved the levels of success I have is I'm just too bloody stubborn to quit. I just won't stop. And I'm the little idiot that thinks she can, no matter what other people are saying. And I really have that defiant picture. It's my favorite picture is where the frog is being eaten by a stork. And when you look at the cartoon,
it's choking him.
And the stork is trying to eat this frog, and all you can see is the legs of the frog, and the little front arms of the frog are tightly gripping the stork's neck. So the stork can't swallow him. And that's how I felt for the first 2 years of my moving into being a solopreneur and making a living for my children and I. I was always one step away from total and complete failure and bankruptcy, like crash and burn and have to go back into the workforce. And I always went, no, dang it. And I used cussing. Right. Dang it, I am not going back to the workforce. You will find a way, and I would demand it from the universe. You will find a way, and you will help me, and you will get your scrawny little butt, whoever you are, the big is, get your butt down here and help me. And I'm going to sleep now, and you're going to have a solution for me when I wake up in the morning. And that was the way I spoke to the universe. I'm like, you can keep the cosmos in action where we are like clockwork when it comes to the earth spinning around the sun. You can help this little bitty single mom with her 4 kids and in Colorado. Now let's get on this. And then I go to sleep, all mad. Go to sleep. I wake up the next morning.
Okay, well, if you can't sleep because your business is keeping you up, try Janine's method. Yell at the universe and then go to sleep.
And then go to sleep. And anyway, the next morning I'd sit there with my cup of coffee. It'd be 4 a.m. I'm sitting there in front of a book that I am working on, and I would be working away on the book, and then an email or something would come through, and there would be the money I needed for the bills that were sitting on my desk.
Oh, that's such a cool story. It really is. And I think a lot of business owners can relate to it.
Oh, yeah.
Because
every single one.
Right. Because I mean, I've had the same thing of like, oh, okay, well, we are about to not have this work anymore. Or do we fold up shop and return to corporate America, or do we stick it out? I don't think I'm as tenacious as that little frog you're talking about, but I definitely have some attitude. You've seen it. For anyone who doesn't know, if you've ever met me in person, if I don't like you, we both know it. There's no secrets there. We both know that I don't like you. So, but those of you that are in my circle, you know, obviously Janine is one of them. There is a lot of community around business, small business specifically, or even what we call, what is it, the micro enterprise or whatever, the ones where we're not quite at the like super awesome corporate can pay for everything, money solves our problems kind of way. But we are a community and we're here to just help and support each other. And I think that's a lot of what's great about people like Janine that are there to help. And we always want to have good value for what we're asking you, as you call it, fork over your hard-earned money. We always want to have the best value for people because I don't know about some people, I'm not going to say whom, but Janine and I are happy to wake up in the morning and look at ourselves in the mirror and be like, I like what I did. I can look at myself and I'm providing a good service. And those of you who aren't, you know who you are. So, and Janine and I don't live together. If that's what that just sounded like, we do not live together. But I was like saying as a general
I'm in a very different location.
Yeah, you are. So I'm going to check really quick here on what I wanted to talk about. Oh, okay. So this will be a fun question. What struggles did you have when you first started with videography, either with your Zoom meetings or promo videos or just being on interviews?
I think the biggest struggle that I had was getting people to join my party. And what I mean by that is Zoom was not well known. You have to remember, this was back in 2009, 2010, and I was online trying to run these video courses. The tech was cumbersome. Nobody liked anybody else. YouTube was still something that only millennials really played around with. And if I really wanted to get good at videography, I'd have to go on to Discord. And I did not want to hang out with a bunch of gamers. So I was
Nothing wrong with gamers. It's
I have most of my children, you know, I'm in their clan. They don't let me say I am, but I am. And so, you know, we have our own guild, just saying that. But just, you know, there's no problem with gamers. It's just if you are trying to run a business and you want to be seen and perceived as somebody who has something of value, it was a hard slog. And there were very few softwares that were available to you. So that was number one, was the tech. The second part of the tech, though, was once I did have clients or customers, was getting them used to being able to work with Zoom at the time. It was so alien to anyone. And that's when I realized how far our society had advanced in tech and how I was right there with it, but how I had left a lot of people in the dust. And then we had 2020 and that cute little pandemic that decided to make all of our lives interesting. And what's nice is now I finally feel like here I am in 2021 and I'm rocking it. Why? Well, everybody's come to join my party now. It's wonderful. I love it. And I don't have to constantly say, go to the bottom of your screen, see where the green button is. You know, all of that coaching that I used to have to do. I spent an inordinate amount of time just getting people up to speed with the tech. So that was the biggest frustration I had. And when it came to myself, I'm a bit of a clown, in case most people haven't noticed. And it's true. I really have no shame And because of that, I don't care what I look like on camera. And I'm so sorry,
Right.
Jade. I mean, this is how you make your money. And this is why I
No.
hire people like Jade who I'm like, okay, how am I looking? And they look at me and go, oh, darling, we need to fix like X, Y, Z. And I'm like,
I
okay,
fixed
fine.
very little with Janine. Janine
Yeah.
had most of
But
this going on, just a couple of tweaks here and there.
here and there. But the biggest thing with me was I didn't care. To me, it was
Hmm.
the message was more important. Helping the person on the other side of the screen was most important to me. And so I got a little bit of flack for that. You know, people would say things like, well, you know, she's not very professional, to which I'd always say, well, you only paid $997 for this course. You can go to anyone else. And I pointed out certain names that I won't say here. I'm like, and they only charge you
Hmm.
$9,970. So it was
Hmm.
like, you know, they were expecting me to operate at a marketing level that was business to business when here I was working business to customer and they
Hmm.
expected that same level. So they filtered out pretty quickly. But that was my number one challenge or frustration was people's expectations with
Hmm.
tech. Just because I'm good with tech doesn't mean I know how to be a fabulous videographer.
Well, I have to say, your background looks great. I know that we did some minor coaching with what was going on because the good part about what you had as an issue is that you knew how to work everything, which is usually half of what I have to teach is how to set things up. You kind of already knew that. I was like, oh, we need to elevate here. We need to get you a screen. We need to blah, blah, blah. And you did all that. And it
Yeah.
looks really, really great now, especially compared to where it was. And now you have that just additional professional edge. So I just love how that worked out for you, especially. And the
And
whole
it,
the whole Zoom thing,
yeah. Oh, excuse me. I'm going to cut in here.
go for
And it only cost me $175 for that fix. And
it.
it
Yeah.
totally altered everything. And I say
Yeah.
only $175 because the amount of business that I have had since those little tweaks that Jade and I worked through, more than paid for the expense of
Oh,
getting a decent screen and getting decent lighting. Yeah.
oh, thank you. That's
You're
very kind
welcome.
of you. You're very
Hmm.
sweet. I have to agree with you though that now that Zoom is becoming a thing, which I never understood why it was so difficult, because I'm like, has anybody ever seen a sci-fi movie? It's the same thing. Like, just it's what we've been seeing. That's kind of a fun thing for those of you that are into science fiction and stuff like that, is a lot of the technology we have now was inspired by science fiction.
Hmm.
Which is a very cool thing. So if you ever go back and watch older science fiction, or if you do Mystery Science Theater, I love that show where they make fun of the really bad movies. You can see all these ideas like, oh, we have that now. And back then it was just some imagination in someone's head. So I'm glad that Zoom's becoming a thing. Uh, People still need to work a little bit on their Zoom presentations. I always like to use the example of when the newscasters were first filming from their homes and they had like cat butts in their background, or it was like askew, or you could like see things in the background that you're like, oh my God, this person is on like ABC. Like what am I seeing? And it's such a quick, easy fix. So you just have to kind of know what you're looking for. But Janine, I know you do a lot of stuff for the community. I know you do a lot of stuff for increasing business owners, productivity and things like that. So you have a boot camp coming up on March 4th, 2021. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yes, it's called Build Your Business Boot Camp, and it's designed for anybody who struggles with working on their business and not in their business. Now, what do I mean by that? Because that used to drive me nuts. I heard these wonderful business coaches talking about you need to work on your business, not in your business. And I was like, I wanted to scream at the screen, what are you talking about? I have no idea what you're saying. Speak to me in English, right? So this is the difference. When you are building your widget or when you are face to face with a client, that is you working in the business. In that moment, you are working and people have given you money for that work. So that's working in the business. So what's working on the business? Working on the business is you taking the time necessary to go after the next client. And you don't go and chase them down. There's a big thing now called relationship marketing, which I find hysterical. Anybody who has had any good opportunities with sales and marketing, if you are a number one salesman in whatever you are doing, you already are involved in relationship marketing. The days of the hard sell is gone with the 1950s. It's all relationship marketing. And I'm so glad that people have decided to join our party. But relationship marketing is where you work on the business. This has been around since the 1960s, probably earlier, but that's when it really started to catch on, and we can thank all the hippies for pushing against the 1950s models of sales. So I know we had Woodstock and everything was crazy and everybody seemed to be drugged out of their brain, but at the same time, they were rebelling against the pushy company sales rep. And one of the things that came out of that, thank heavens, is much more where I'm inclined, and people that work with you, Jade, are more inclined, which is we are the servant leaders. Yes, we own our own businesses, but we own our own businesses and we want to serve as leaders in our community and to our clients. So we want relationship marketing. So the boot camp is all about how you go about automating that in your own business.
That's so exciting. And thank you for putting something like that together, because I am one of those that I've seen all these coaches talk about this, that, and the other. So the coaches that I have selected and the people I do choose to work with, and who I give my hard-earned money for to get that consultation of the things that I don't know. It's really great because I've been to so many conferences where they give you poor information. And they kind of tell you the same thing over and over again, and have something that is a built system that you have troubleshooted.
Oh yeah.
I think it's the word
definitely.
I'm looking for.
I know where it
over
fails.
the years that you've,
I know where it
failed
breaks.
upward. And I mean, that's when I did my own online class, it's the same thing. Like, these are the things that I messed up as a professional videographer filming myself, because I'm not used to filming myself and I had nobody to help me. And a lot of the business owners are going through the same thing. They're having to film themselves for quarantine and they have no help. So, I mean, it was the same thing. Like, you learn from your own mistakes, and those are the best lessons you can give your students. But I think, like, and you said it's a 4-week thing with accountability, and I would call them exercises, but things to really do outside of the boot camp to enhance your comprehension, which is a thing. Right. You want to do things outside of the class. There's only so much retention you can do, and only so many things your brain can work on at once. So what are the results that people have gotten out of this? How has this really helped them?
What it has done is we take 1 month. So it'll be 4 Thursdays in March, right? And we take that month and we walk through my boot camp that's an online course. And this was an online course that I used to just sell, but I only had 3 people that actually got all the way through it. So I realized, they need once a week kind of coaching. So I went ahead and set that up a couple of years ago. And the results that people receive from this is they say they get their life back. That's the number one thing. They're like, oh my gosh, that life that I wanted is happening. Because one of the very first things that I request that the people do is that they set up their vacation. When are you taking vacation? When are you setting that's why I was talking about that earlier, was because that's the very first thing that you're going to do. Once you have that set up, then there's a whole list of questions we ask after that. But for starters, they're going to be the first exercise that you're going to do, as well as what kind of lifestyle do you want with your business? Right? And if you don't know what your life looks like when you're able to step away from your business, like if you weren't working every day, what would you be doing? Right? And those are the types of things we ask about. And then you go build that business. And then eventually you want to step away from that business because you want to go build another one, which is why I've got 7, because they're all automated now. And
that's crazy.
And the only thing that I need to do is show up when my calendar says, teach this class. Right?
Wow.
So I want to do that for
I didn't
others.
know it was 7. I did not know it was 7. I thought it was 4. So excuse me.
It's 4 podcasts.
It's 4 podcasts, which is also great because all the podcasts are so different.
Right.
And I've been on one of them. I'm excited to be on others. I mean, you have, and they all vary on lengths and topics, and some of the, what is it, the 3-minute one?
We have from my financial days when I used to help people with debt-free living. I still do, but that's not my main focus anymore. I have the 3-minute money tip. And I will give 3 minutes of a tip of some kind that is useful and I know will serve people in a debt-free living lifestyle. I have guests now that are coming on, and I'm like, I introduce them and I'll say, you have 3 minutes. What's your tip for today? And I let them just run for 3 minutes. So it's not an interview. It's them giving you a 3-minute money tip. And I have a lot of people that have clicked on that when they love it. They look forward to every Friday because they know that's when we'll post on the next one.
And who doesn't have 3 minutes to learn how to save more money? What is it? A penny saved is a penny earned. I mean,
right.
like that.
Right.
I got 3 minutes for that.
Yep.
See, look how smart you are. You know, all this historical stuff, you're bringing in pop culture throughout the ages. I enjoy that. And you know, what's funny is only certain people are going to get that too. So my audience is pretty smart. I'm pretty excited to have you. And, so it's always nice to have somebody talking other than myself. Almost.
It is.
So again, podcasts are awesome. Check out Janine's. I'm going to put more information about her upcoming boot camp in March in the description here. But please check her out, follow her, get into her automations. She gives a lot of great tips and tricks out there. And she's an awesome resource beyond that. And if you get to be her friend, if you're lucky enough to be her friend, you're going to see a difference in your life for sure. So again, Janine, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it.
It's been my pleasure. It's always a joy to be able to serve the larger community. And I wish everyone much abundance in all that you do. Stay profitable, stay strong. We need you.
And that was the Influencing on Camera, the podcast.